program of the environment that you're in says, no, you won't be accepted with that name. You're not good enough. So what that's saying is, I am not good enough. You got to remember, when you're dealing with this subconscious mind, it doesn't see things as is distinguished like this is that and that. It sees it's almost black and white.
That's it.
So this is why people can have phobias. They don't even understand why they've got the phobia, because they would have had a traumatic experience. Yeah, that experience still lives in the emotional body. Yeah, as an emotional reality. That means it's in the cells. There's particular cells within our system they call soma cells or somatic cells. That's where the emotional energy is. That's why if someone's depressed, you can see they're depressed, bro. Depression isn't just a feeling. You can see it in a person's body.
Or not, just want them to feel comfortable, feel at home, and just let the truth flow, because we're about motivating others. And if you're not comfortable,
no, it feels homely, man. And you know, like I'm very much into interior design as well.
Okay.
Just because the environment, this is the physical environment. And then also that kind of goes into the whole ecosystem in terms of plants and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But the physical environment influences your internal environment. They're like one and the same. So no matter how positive you are as a person, if your environment is negative, you're going to have to consistently try and reset yourself in order to actually overcome it. And most people can't, because the environment is constant. Your thoughts, though, are moment to moment. So it's like every time you got to affirm yourself, affirm it, but the environment continues. So if you're in a negative environment trying to be positive, you're going to lose. So like coming in here and just seeing like the artwork and the colours, it feels warm. Although the colours in terms of the wall is white and very, very much clinical, clean and hygienic, the colours make it feel warm, which actually makes it feel homely. That's like even like before you go on stage to perform, whether you're a comedian, you're an actor, you're a singer, you go into a green room. And the reason why you go into a green room, because the color green is symbolic and representative of the heart chakra. So when you look at like your chakra, you know about chakras?
Please tell us.
This is still going to go into health because it's all one and the same. Yeah. But when you're dealing with your chakras, they say you have 7, but there's more than 7. But there's 7 major ones, and they pronounce it chakra or chakra. Yeah, Chakra. And what it is, you have your root, which they say emanates red. So you can see these colors as well. You can train yourself to see these colors. And there's a technique to do it. But it's really, you've got your root chakra, which is really at the bottom of your spine. And then you have your navel, your sacral, which is by your belly button. Then you have your solar plexus. Everyone knows that one. That's like when you feel butterflies or you're nervous or you're anxious. It's in your solar plexus. And they say that's the seat of the soul, in terms of solar, light, soul. And there's even a Chinese, it's a taboo, but in the Oriental tradition, they say if you were to punch someone at a point which is just next to your belly button, in between your belly button and your solar plexus, or you were to injure somebody there, you could kill them straight away because it's an energy center for your soul. And then you've got your heart chakra, which is not where your heart is on your left, it's in the center. That's what they say. That's where the energy is. And you can feel that as well. There's certain exercises, meditations you can do. You can feel where your heart chakra is. And most people feel it go off when they're in love or they go into a state of fear. You see, when you get into the fight or flight, it shuts down the heart, shuts down your creativity because you go into survival mode. And that is green. Now, your heart chakra is very important because it balances your lower chakras, which is more your carnal instincts, eating, procreation, sex, all that type of stuff. And then your higher chakras, which then is your throat chakra, which is blue. Then you've got your brow, which is what they call your third eye. And everyone talks about your third eye, and that is purple. And then you've got your crown, which is at the top of your head. And this is when they speak about the halo in religion and all of that. It's about the crown chakra, and they say that's indigo. So going back to the heart, creativity in terms of ideas and inspiration, it comes by way of the heart. And the reason is because the heart is the actual, the marriage between your higher, or should I say your cosmic self, and then also your earthly self, which is your identity. Yeah, so when you go into a green room now, it brings you back into your center. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to calm you down, you know, like with performers or when you're presenting, you can get a bit anxious and nervous because you care about it. You know, it's meant to bring you right down, and then you can just get out of the way and be a vessel or be a channel for the creativity.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just... Albert, I just created a new way how the show will be introduced. So there's no more intro at the beginning.
This guy.
It's going to be a little bit in. And just to let you know, we are now changing the reception kitchen area to green.
Come on.
Just to let you know. Wow. I never knew that. You threw me. But I've always wondered, why is it green? I just didn't think it was that scientific into it.
Yeah. And, you know, just to add to it as well, when we look in nature, in terms of the botany, the plants, the vegetation, what's the predominant color?
Green.
So when someone is suffering, so now we can touch on, let's say we touch on some mental health. When someone is suffering from depression, you know, there's a few things that happen within that being and their body and their biological system. So someone can have a mental trigger, meaning, let's say I catch my girlfriend cheating on me. Yeah? So apart from, like, you know, wanting to, you know, do some damage, I may now look at myself like, what have I done to deserve this? Yeah. And then what that could do is trigger a childhood, you know, wound or a childhood trauma of not being good enough. Because that's something that's consistent. If we put aside that scenario, this inner dialogue of not being good enough is consistent with humans and very consistent with our community. Not being good enough, not being good enough. People don't say it like that though. They don't say they're not good enough. That's not always the inner dialogue. What they would do is try and prove they are good enough.
And that's when they see red.
Yeah, car, money, this, that. All these things trying to get validation from the outside when actually you've invalidated yourself internally. So let's say someone feels that way and I walk in and I catch my girlfriend cheating on me or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. What will happen, that phrase single-handedly will lower my frequency. Why? Because not being good enough does not feel good. Because ultimately what I am saying, that I am not acceptable the way I am. And if I'm saying that to myself, then what I am actually doing is discounting myself. I'm disregarding myself. I'm killing myself off, literally in that moment in time. That will spark depression. Okay, what's depression? People say, it's cortisol, it's adrenaline. Well, that's the physical response. The emotional response is, okay, I may feel apathetic. I may feel downtrodden. I may feel sad, melancholic, all these words. So what happens is you've got the emotion, yeah? All right, let's start from the mental. Something happened mentally. Then I have an emotional response. Then the emotional response creates a biological response, hormones. Hormones are critical for health. There are different factors. There's like about 5 pillars. But hormones are so critical because if you're in a hostile environment, like I was saying to you, and that environment may not just be externally, the hostile environment could be the environment you've created or you're generating within yourself. And that's the case with most people. You can be in the greatest environment physically, but if your environment internally is counterproductive, you are going to suffer. So now, biologically, what happens with depression, you start producing cortisol. The adrenaline starts actually being produced. Why? Because your body sees that it's in a stressful situation. So what the body's trying to do is protect you. It feels like, oh my gosh, fight or flight, like there's a lion in front of you. Imagine every day waking up with a lion in front of you. Before you know it, bro, like, you're either going to go crazy, or you're either going to completely be depleted in terms of your energy, because every time you wake up, you're in a shock. That's what depression does to the body, you know. So actually now you've got the adrenaline in the system, which now makes it that your body can't absorb nutrients. So if you're eating food or you're trying to be healthy, but you're stressed, you literally decrease the efficiency of your body by about 50%, literally. So you can do everything you want to do. It doesn't matter. Your body's not going to absorb as much as it can. You're not going to be as vital as you can. You don't have as much energy because the energy is being taken to actually direct it into surviving and keeping you alive.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. So what happens when someone's depressed? One thing that helps people that are depressed, this is one thing, there's many techniques, is going out into nature. Because what depression also symbolizes is when you're not grounded. When someone's depressed, they're very much in their head. Now, it's easier said than done, but this is the function of it. We're in our head when we're depressed. Because depression is not out there. It's never outside of yourself. It's something you've created internally. Whether or not, like, it's your fault, it's not your fault, we're all responsible. You know, there's a saying that goes, our upbringing and our childhood and our parenting, is not our fault. Meaning, the way we've been raised, you know, even the experiences that we've had as children, for the most part, we were effects of that. It's not our fault. However, for who you become as an adult, you are 100% responsible. So what it is as an adult, in being able to take responsibility for our life, take responsibility for our inner child, we are responsible. But we may not be responsible for our upbringing, but we can actually become the victory of everything we've been through. So one of the ways to start grounding ourselves is going out into nature. Why? Because it's green. And then also, you remember I was talking about the chakras? When there's depression going on, it throws your energy off. Literally, your energy goes off. So your chakras start going all over the place. Why? Because your body has a power surge. It's like having a circuit, and that circuit has a power surge. Well, in an actual normal circuit, you will take that plug, pull it into the wall, and if there's a power surge, there's an earth wire. And all the earth wire does, bro, is take the energy and send it into the ground. But we're not doing that when we've got power surges in our daily lives. We're walking around like ticking time bombs. Yeah, keeping it. And then either we try smoke it away, we try drink it away, we try sex it away, we try play it away on PS5. We're all doing all these things, smoking it, all this. And then what happens, as soon as you come down off your high, that same thing you haven't dealt with is there waiting for you.
Yeah, because we're seeking for validation externally. And that's why I always say to people, you can lie to me, but you can't lie to yourself. And whatever trouble you're going with, as soon as you go home, you do whatever you're doing. As soon as you lay in bed, as soon as you turn off that light, everything is there. Everything there. So what you're saying in terms of nature, that is, I find that sometimes, like, I drive, I do long drives. Sometimes when I drive out London, it's just like I get a mad feeling, and everything within me stops me from driving and say, you know what, Francis, take time. And I always just chill. Half an hour, 2 hours is the most. And I'm telling you what, and I just so different. And when I come back, there's like there's literally a part when I'm coming back, I can almost feel it. Like, boom, I'm back. I feel the tension. I feel the hurt. I feel the anger. I feel the pain. Not just by me, but it's like the energy is just so different. It's crazy. But so you saying that we need to go back to nature, but I think the main problem is a lot of people don't recognize or realize that they're dealing with a lot of trauma within them.
Yes.
And that's a problem in itself. And I think that people need to become more aware of that. Deal with it.
Absolutely. You know, that's a good word, trauma. And it's become a buzzword now. And when I say buzzword, I mean there are certain words that we never had in our lexicon, we never had it in our vocabulary before. However, based on what we expose ourselves to, some of the music and the artists we listen to, even what we're reading, social media, these words come into our awareness. Now, we know that social media it's like a battlefield. There's so much, you know. You can find your heaven and you can find your hell. It's all down to you. Now, that word trauma has been coming up a lot. And even in the last, let's say, 18 months, it's intensified how many people are using the word. And I think because people are trying to distinguish what's going on with themselves or what's going on with their loved ones. Yeah, we know the situation in terms of people, you know, being isolated and locked down, all this stuff. However, you see with trauma, it is like a blanket word. It's an umbrella. There are so many categories and experiences that can be traumatic. People don't even have to directly go through an experience themselves to have trauma. So, for example, I was on a call the other day, and it was about how to integrate the experience of the indigenous people, black people, Moors, whatever you want to classify yourself as, into this transformational self-development actual company who has a lot of black participants. Now, the whole topic came up because of the situation last year and all this stuff, the movements, the protests, all that. And what was being shared by everyone, all the black participants, was very valid. You know, what was clear is that they were like, look, we've never felt like we belonged. First, they were talking about the society. Then they were going into the organization. They were like, we can use these tools in here very well, and we can survive in here. But when we go out there, it's a different world. But that's not what the organization wants. They're saying, nah, that doesn't make sense then. How can you just be transformed in a confined space? That's not transformation. If it's not actually spreading out, if it's not actually influencing your life outside of here. You know what I'm saying? So I was saying, though, I said, look, a couple of things, and this is just to touch on your point. I said, there are a lot of specialists who have distinguished the worlds that we are living in. And I mean that the way I'm saying it, the worlds that we are living in. You have worlds within a world. You have like 5 worlds in one family, literally.
I always say that.
Yeah, literally.
I always say that.
You got people that have come out of the same womb, bro, and are polar opposites. Literally. Yes, there's something that connects them, but they're polar opposites. Now, what I'm saying is that I was saying to the person that was like she was like the host of the call, and I was like, look, firstly, what we must get is there's a lot of us, you know, indigenous people, who we are so used to surviving that we don't even realize we're not living. Yeah? And this all goes back to health. Trust me, it all goes right back to health. And it was like, for real. And I was like, yeah. And the reason is we've amalgamated survival and living as if they're the same. And we can't tell them apart. And that in itself, is problematic. Because if you don't know, you don't know, you think you know. Because it's a blind spot. Yes. You know, and blind spots can be very, I'll say, insidious. They can spread. Why? Because there's a saying that said the picture can't see the frame. So what you're framed by, you're not going to see it. Unless you have a breakdown. That's why breakdowns are usually the opportunity for a breakthrough. Most people don't transform or change until something kicks them out their comfort zone. Like when I say kicks them out, boot them out on their head.
Because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And you don't see it. As you said, you can't see yourself.
And then you know what? We've become so used to accepting mediocrity as life. Look what's happening to the youths out on road, bro. You see what's going on with the youths out on road? It's no coincidence. It is by design. They can't be any other way.
Because it's been going on for a very long time. But I would say it's evolved. When I first came to this country, it was going on. But it wasn't as random and pointless. It was, if you got trouble with this guy, okay, this guy will come down. But back then it wasn't, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. It's I'm going to hurt this guy and teach him a lesson. Right? And the difference then, there weren't no camera phones. But now we got camera phones, so we're capturing it. But the thing that I don't understand now is pointless. Although still back in the day, it was still pointless. Like postcode, okay, wow, you stepped on my train, I was in the club. Wow. But we can say there was a slight reason. Yeah. Nowadays, people are just walking. I just feel like it goes back to what you're saying, the trauma. I don't know how they got the energy is so imbalanced. And as you know this, if you don't find a safe way to release it, whether you like it or not, it's going to come out.
Well, that's standard. Like, to touch on the point of trauma, because this is going into a direction that is referred to as rites of passage, but I'll speak about that in the context of health as well. So, indirect trauma, I was saying to these people on the call, I was like, look, there's a lot of us, we're not even aware that we're surviving trauma. We're not aware of it. I'll give you an example. If your name, is Olafemi, but when you go to school, you are Dwayne or you're Daniel, yeah, what is that doing to your... Well, I had brethren where that was the case.
We shouldn't laugh, but I, as soon as you said it went back, it triggered. We used to have Akiboko, we just had to... Like, we change people's names.
Literally.
And they said, no, just, I won't even say his name. I got some people, no, just call me such and such. Because they just had too much.
Bro, that's deep, bro. Imagine this. You've been brought up in a household when you've been given a name, which actually has history, has value, has nobility.
And you're proud of that name. Because that's all you know until you come out the house.
But then... the program of the environment that you're in says, no, you won't be accepted with that name. You're not good enough. So what that's saying is, I am not good enough. You got to remember, when you're dealing with this subconscious mind, it doesn't see things as, is distinguished, like this is that and that. It sees it's almost black and white.
That's it.
So this is why people can have phobias. They don't even understand why they've got the phobia. Because they would have had a traumatic experience, That experience still lives in the emotional body, as an emotional reality. That means it's in the cells. There's particular cells within our system they're called soma cells or somatic cells. That's where the emotional energy is. That's why if someone's depressed, you can see they're depressed, bro. Depression isn't just a feeling. You can see it in a person's body. And because it's in their soma cells. So imagine, every time you walk out the house and you engage with this group of people, which is now the dominant people, whether it's your brethren, whoever, you automatically attain, so I'm not good enough. So let me change my name. So now, instead of being Oladapo, I'm just D. You got to remember, imagine that. I've taken all this meaning, now I'm just D. Yeah, not even a word. I am literally a letter. Wow. So I've minimized all of my essence into just a letter, just so you can accept me. So then how can I expect you to, one, value me the same way you value yourself when I've had to lower my value just for you to see me? Standards. That means I've had to squeeze into your box. And then now I want to tell you respect me.
And you're already telling me by doing that you're superior to
Literally, that's what you're saying. And remember, that's how the subconscious mind sees it. That's like, I've won superior. Do you get me? One for the dominant actual culture, which says black is bad, white is good. And that's what I was saying to the participants on the phone. I was like, look, it's all good, us, wanting to transform the technology, wanting to actually stand up and be counted within this organization. I said, but before we can do that, we've got to distinguish the world that we're in. You've got the world of self-development, then you've got the world in terms of humanity and the paradigm of humanity. The paradigm we're living in is black is bad and white is good. That's a problem. That is a problem within itself, and it's inherent in the language. Why? Because for you even to be born and manifest here, you come from the darkness. The womb of our mothers is dark. For us to grow food, we plant it in the earth, which is dark. So that in itself, when we close our eyes to try and get ideas, it's dark. So why are we vilifying the darkness? Why are we vilifying black?
So do you not think they do that by design? They keep us down there, so we are then afraid of each other because they know once we uprise, they see as we are threats. Even though we're not, I believe we're not, but they don't know that. So let's not take that chance. Dark is bad. Let's just keep them that. And then we believe that. I mean, you said the young ones these days, they're walking around fearlessly, but that's just me being kind using the word fearlessly.
And you know what it is? You see, again, trauma, bro. Yeah, because there's a lady. She's amazing. She's an empress. Her name is Dr. Joy DeGuerre, and she wrote a book and started this movement, which was identifying post-traumatic slavery syndrome. Now, people have like post-traumatic syndrome, they have PMS, there's all different types of trauma syndromes. Like women have they have a syndrome that after a woman has a baby, she can even go through that herself, or even when a woman's coming on her menses as well, she can go through that as well, like the PMS. Well, it's the same thing, but magnify that. Although you haven't physically, been through so-called slavery, and that's not even the right term for it. It was really war, prisoners of war, and although you haven't been through the trauma, the torment, the genocide does not mean it doesn't exist as a reality in your DNA within your cells. Someone can say, oh yeah, but how can you say that? Like, you weren't even born. True, but look at the features on my face.
It gets passed on.
Like, look at that. I got my granddad's nose, you get me? I got my great-great-grandma's lips, you get me? So there is something that remembers all of my lineage, and you can see it on me. I'm walking around with these features with people I've never met. So do you not think the body's going to remember trauma that you actually haven't actually healed? So this is why they see when we do the work for ourselves individually, the healing work, we start doing the work for our lineage. And we do that work for our lineage by healing ourselves. And so with trauma, you've got trauma that's indirect, like post-traumatic slavery syndrome. Now, for example, the country that my parents are from, which is Sierra Leone, they have gone through trauma after trauma after trauma. Bro, they've got no treatment. The way that they're still able to actually function is just miraculous. Like, I can't put words on it. But you can also see the dysfunctionality. Because why? They're living in it, bro. So now the way some people treat each other, you're like, why would you behave? They can't behave any other way. They're carrying this baggage with them. Over here, bro, someone doesn't get given toys in their childhood and you go to counseling. But you've seen, there's certain people, and it's not just Sierra Leone, there's many other countries in Africa and around the world where they've literally watched their whole family get slaughtered. You understand? And then they've had children with this trauma. So think of what that's doing to the baby, because trauma also causes dis-ease, because it's a dis-ease to a system. That's all dis-ease means when you're not in alignment. So you've got all this indirect trauma. So you've got that operating here as well. You see with the youths, bro, and the youth, there's a saying. Let me go back. There's a saying. It says, if you don't initiate the child, that could be a boy or a girl, you do not initiate them into their adulthood, they will burn down the village just to feel its warmth. And I'll break that down. What that means is that rites of passage is a natural process of life. So rites of passage is when you go from one state of being to another. Now, sex is seen as rites of passage. Having a baby is rites of passage. Then there's more culturally defined forms of rites of passage, which is you get to a certain age, like in the Jewish community, it's 13, you have your bar mitzvah and so on and so on. Well, it's the same thing in the indigenous. It came from the indigenous. The indigenous, it wasn't 13. It was at a certain point when you start showing symptoms that you're going through something. When there's some type of dis-ease imbalance, it could be mental health. It could be sexuality. It could be trauma. It could be any of these things. You could be questioning, where am I going with my life? They say, oh, it's time to initiate you. Because they automatically already identify that there's an energy being born inside of you. And if that energy is not guided and it has no guidance, it can just continue to expand and explode. You know what I'm saying? And take you off your center. So with rites of passage, the reason why they say the children will burn down the village, because they are asking for something. They are asking to be seen. They are asking to be guided by elders that have walked that path before. And there's another saying, old eyes see far better than young eyes. Not because, old eyes in terms of biologically and anatomically are healthier. No, it's the experience and the wisdom. But old doesn't mean you're old because you age. There's many people who are stuck in the same place. They just go around in circles. And they're 80 years of age. And that's their path. That's their journey. Like, no actual judgment on them. But many people have not evolved from their experiences. Why? Because we're too afraid to face them. You understand? Everyone wants to look cool and look good. I've been guilty of that, looking good. So because you want to look good, you don't put yourself in uncomfortable situations. You don't challenge yourself, so you don't expand. And if you don't expand, you don't change. It's like a seed, bro. When you plant that seed in the ground, that seed has all the DNA, all the genetic information to turn into a major grand tree. Yeah? As a seed, it has that, this little thing that you plant into the ground.
It's all built up.
All of it in that, bro. Everything is in that. However, that seed in itself, it actually has to make a choice. Do I want to stay safe in this little cocoon where I know I can live for thousands of years? Imagine that. Thousands of years I can stay here, dormant. Or do I want to sprout and take on the risk of living, take on the risk of becoming, take on the risk of transforming, take on the risk of actually achieving my purpose? That's a choice, because not every seed sprouts. And when that seed sprouts, it comes out of a hard shell that is protected. But you would even eat seeds like flax seeds and that, and they just go straight through you. Do you get me? So this seed is protected, but it says, nah, for the adventure.
Let's go.
Let's go. But humans have been almost conditioned and whipped not to do that.
And they're walking around. What you said in terms of rite of passage, I see that with kids. It's very evident in kids, where the kids want attention from the parents. And the parents don't know how to give that attention. So the kid is just running around causing havoc, and you'll be like, just behave. She's doing my head and he's doing my head. And they just want to be seen.
That's it. Bro, even the most so-called because outside of the nutrition and the holistic health coaching and the holistic health scans and the creativity, outside of that, I work with youth. I do like holistic transformational coaching with young people. And bro, even the most disruptive youths, children, most of them are not this way out of choice. It's survival. When I say survival, they're not just disruptive because they want attention as well. Bro, a lot of them are in a state of dis-ease, which is now, it's not been defined clinically, because even for a black child to be considered unhealthy, they need to be twice as sick. And what I mean by that, the standards of health that we've been adhering to are Caucasian standards. Now, it means that we have biological differences. These differences is something that needs to be celebrated, but also respected and honored. When you look out into the plant kingdom, you haven't just got roses. You've got daffodils, you've got tulips, you've got all types, burdock, you got this, you got that. So what it is they have different needs. But all the needs of, like, especially this society, the West, have been predicated on a Caucasian male. And there's different actual minerals and nutrients that we need in different proportions. So before a indigenous person is seen as unwell, he's already twice as sick, literally. So he's already subclinically sick, then more subclinic, and just drops and drops. And that's when they say, okay, you're not well now.
And we give him the same treatment as we'll give someone else who's only half the sickness.
Bro, literally.
And you wonder why we're not cured.
Literally.
And then they'll walk around doing all of this. This is happening. And then you say, well, we don't understand. We're giving you everything.
Literally.
And what more can we do? It's crazy. It's crazy. Even going back to what we spoke about on the phone the other day, which I believe we need. I mean, we are in desperate need. It's therapy.
Well, brother, there is no substitute. Therapy is needed quick, and not just the standard therapies. There's so, all right, there are, brother. The world of therapy is as numerous as the stars. It's phenomenal. And just going back to what you're saying about the youths and therapy and all of that, yeah. So firstly, the youths, a lot of the youths on road, they're in a state of disease, straight. Like, brother, I have a little sister, and she used to work for an insurance company. It was a health insurance. And when she was telling me what the different age bands, when I say age bands, I mean like 80 to 90, there was particular diseases that 80 to 90-year-olds had, yeah? And she was like, a lot of them, she said they had, what was it? She said they had respiratory diseases. So stuff to do with like lungs and breathing and all of that. When we were talking, I was like, that makes sense. Because the 80 to 90-year-olds, when they were living in this country, there was a lot of smog in their youth. Because remember, this whole country was industrialized. So they had a lot of factories here making a lot of goods. There was I wasn't alive, but I was told that at one point, like, the sky was so dark because they had so much pollution in this country that you couldn't even see the clouds. So then, you remember, they went through the revolution, all that stuff.
But based on your knowledge, are you sure you weren't alive then? I just have to ask.
It could have been a past life,
because every time we spoke, there's nothing you don't know, and you actually going. Have you ever studied logic of thinking logically?
No, I don't think so.
So
I don't think so.
Basically, what it does is everything we do and say, there's a logic behind it. So, just quick side note. You've got a lot of people have an argument and it's based on opinion and they're so sure that they're right. But instead of to be successful in the argument, just argue logically. Like, speak facts, speak the truth. So I say that to say this. Every time you say what you say, you just don't say, oh, because I woke up feeling good. No, you actually bring reason to it, logic, facts. So that's what I'm asking. Are you sure you wasn't alive? Because the knowledge you have is just so deep and extensive to the point where'd you get time?
That's funny. No, I'm sure I wasn't alive in this form. As Albert. But who knows? Maybe it was up. I'm sure I probably was around as in a past life. However,
it was probably the shell and decided only to blossom.
Absorbing it all. And I'm going to come to Earth in 1984.
But it's the right time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you, just going back to therapy, as you said, there's loads of different therapy. And I believe it could be something as simple as speaking to someone who can reason with you.
Whoa. You know, I'll go back to that next point, but I'll touch on what you're touching on now, but I'll finish off the thing about the smog. But what it is talk therapy is critical. But most people are not having authentic communications. They actually don't even know they're not having authentic communication. What most people are doing is actually talking from identity to identity. And so I'm using identity as a word, but let's remove identity. And in the space of identity, let's use mask. So people are talking from one mask to another mask. That's a big issue. Because we put up these masks to protect ourselves, to survive, to be good enough, whatever it is, we've created it. The ego naturally does that. And the ego is neither bad nor good, it's a tool. But what happens when the ego becomes the driver, it will destroy its host. It will destroy its host. And that's what happens with a lot of us. And so the ego, just like any other type of organism, it wants to eat. And its appetite is insatiable. It wants to be right, doesn't want to be wrong, wants to be a bad man, wants to be this, wants to be that. So what happens, what people are doing, we've been taught not to communicate from our heart because it's unsafe.
Or it puts you in a place of being vulnerable.
Yep.
Because, listen, brother, I can't read. Help me. Mm-hmm. What? You can't read?
Exactly.
Bruv, I don't have no money. What? You broke? So, as you said it earlier, we don't want to admit I'm not good enough. Literally. So how am I going to protect myself? Here comes ego. I'll save you. Don't worry. You hard.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yep.
No, you're hard. When your boys around, just...
Yep, literally. But, in regards to just that, not being able to be authentic, is because one is the paradigm we're in, bro. You remember there's this British stiff upper lip. What does that mean? That means don't use your whole mouth. You know what I'm saying? Don't speak your whole truth. You know what I'm saying? Have a pretense. Play a role. Don't be yourself. So consistently, if children are going through school and they're being taught that they're not good enough the way they are, the only thing they can do is create a mask. Now, masks are not bad if you learn that you're not the mask. because then you can take the mask off when you want and pull it back on, and you can develop many masks, like wearing hats. But that's a skill that you develop through self-development. You know, that's a skill you develop through therapy. But first, you've got to know that you're not that mask. I got to know I'm not my t-shirt. Most of us don't know we're not our t-shirts, bro. We're wearing all these accolades. We're wearing all these ideas as if it's us.
Just for justification.
Just it. And then just like Bruce Lee said, Bruce Lee was like, be like the water, my friend. When you wear mask and you've got all of these attachments, because attachment, you don't flow. You stay fixed, bro. So with the young people, a lot of them are in a state of disease. And I mean nutritionally, they're diseased. They're nutritionally substandard. Why? Because they're not getting the nourishment their bodies need. For the most part, like even if you say, let's say, all right, there's a lot of young people that are eating a lot of junk food. Junk food is just that. We should even remove the food from it and just call it junk. Because that's what it is, it's junk. Even put aside how it's prepared. That's one thing. I mean just by the practices that they actually get away with in farming, bro. Because as a degree, I done farming. And I was into arable farming, which is crops and, you know, like fruits and so on and so forth. But we had to learn about animal husbandry and just what they do to animals.
It's crazy. Even the conditions. Put, like a chicken, you can get a chicken that hatches and you put in a cage, a tiny little, like this room probably fit 1,000. Just imagine. Bro. And you just feed them. So in anything between 3 to 5 weeks, it's a fully grown chicken.
Bro, and they can't even stand up. They've got a lot of like arthritis and like inflammation within their legs because they've got these huge bodies that are full up of water, not even lean meat, you know, because they're giving them a lot of chicken feed. They're giving them a lot of hormones. And then, as you said, 3 to 4, 5 weeks, they're good to go. So I'm saying, you've got that. Yeah. So these chicken and one bone, the animal's not even happy. They're not happy, so they've got adrenaline. People don't get it. Animals produce adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? So if an animal is not happy or animal knows it's going to be slaughtered, the adrenaline comes up. They have fight or flight response. That's why when they say a deer stuck in headlights, it's happening because the deer goes into shock.
Doesn't know.
Yeah. Freeze. What do I do? Yeah. Paralyzed. So you've got the practices of how they're raising these animals, and then you've got what they do to prepare them, bro. A lot of these foods have been stored for years, you know, frozen and then brought to a chicken shop and just put into oil with bare sugar, with bare like they call it what's it called, seasons or MSM, and all these different chemicals they put in to preserve how it looks, and a lot of estrogen. Now, estrogen is a female hormone, but it doesn't just mean females have it; men have it as well. And so men have testosterone and estrogen, so do women. But there's a balance that needs to be kept. But because they use a lot of estrogen to fertilize these fruits and vegetables and the actual animals, because what estrogen does, it fertilizes anything it touches as a hormone. So estrogen, too much estrogen in your body, what it causes impotence. It causes early hair loss. So when you're losing your hair early, you've got to go look at your estrogen levels. It puts you into estrogen stress. You know, causes you to start growing boobs if you're a guy, and that it's all different things this does when you've got too much estrogen. Just like too much testosterone gives you the other side of it. So what happens, you've got these children, they're in estrogen stress, that's one. They have their nutrition is at all-time lows. Their brains are not being fed, bro. So even just they're waking up tired. They'll spend all night on a computer as well, which is draining them because the radiation is depleting their minerals. It's causing a brain drain as well, and it's making them highly radioactive. So now they're in an environment, bro, where they're being fried by the radiation, the phones, the this, the that, the that, the that, that. Then they're expected to perform. Bro, they're in survival mode. Secondly, they've been pumped full of all this fear, so they're scared now. What do people do when they're scared? They're on a defense.
Rightly so. That's innate.
And then you see someone that looks like you don't like yourself, so you don't like that person. Although they've not done anything to you, they're just reflecting what you don't like about yourself. Because that's what humans do. Humans or all the relationships we have are reflections of the relationships that's going on within ourselves. So if someone triggers you, they didn't put that trigger inside of you. You've got that trigger. You're walking around with that trigger. That person was just a catalyst for it to go off.
Yeah.
So these children are not well nutritionally. Obesity is at an all-time high, bro. Children are being born with diabetes. How does that even happen?
That's scary just touching on that, because when I was in school, when I first came here, there was hardly any fat kids.
Bro.
There wasn't. We used to run. Was there any kid was there any kid when you was young who couldn't run or do anything? Football, PE, everyone is on it. Pete, sometimes the teacher will be like, no, you're not in this class. Nope, you shouldn't be in this class. Yes, we are. Yes,
Yeah. We were on it, bro.
And now, as I've been working in schools, do you know how difficult it is to get this young student to do physical education?
Brother, they're nutritionally drained. And this is the thing. For the most part, the children, they're in a state of dis-ease. And I don't mean illness, I mean dis-ease. The lifestyle they're living means they don't even have the capacity, bro, to even motivate themselves to do physical education. A lot of them, their minerals are down. They have no B vitamins. And B vitamins deal with how you metabolize carbohydrates, also deals with your cognitive skills. They then, what it is as well, the omegas, the omega-3 and the 6 and the 9 is off. They're not having no cod liver oil, no flaxseed oil, no pumpkin seed or all that stuff. So, bro, their brain is not functioning. They're not feeding their brain. There's a specific nutrients for the brain. You're not feeding your brain. And then one of the I'll say the common issues, not with children, just not with children, with adults too, is their stomachs are clogged. Because we're eating junk. So when you're supposed to be going to the toilet 3-4 times a day because you're eating 3-4 times a day, people are going once.
Probably once a week.
Yeah. And
once every 4 days.
Is dangerous, bro. Because where's the rest of the food going? It's not dematerializing. It's not magically disappearing. It's sitting in your bowels. And what that means now is you're going toilet in arrears. What does that mean? What means that when you eat, that food pushes the other one down. Literally. Yeah. So there's a brain-gut connection. Like people call your gut or your colon, your intestinal tract, they call it your second brain. And I was joking with another health practitioner on the phone. I was like, well, I thought it was your first brain. I was like, no, I think it's your second. I understood what you're saying. But I was like, the reason I say I think it's your first brain, because that's where your feelings are, you know. And you can program the mind to do something good or bad. It's all relative, you know. There's people out there bombing other people's countries. They think it's good, you know. Yeah. There's people out there, you know, doing a lot of stuff, you know, that we will say is heinous and wicked. But for them, it's good. You get me? So good and bad is a concept. It doesn't exist. It's a concept based on your paradigm. However, that in your brain, you can program someone to do whatever you want them to do, but you can't reprogram the gut. You can't do that. It's just not possible. The gut, literally, they say your gut and your heart and your gut, it's really in tune with divine truth. Cycles, divine truth. Like, you know, like if you like someone, you get butterflies, it's letting you know, like. So I'm saying that to say that with the young people, bro, they're nutritionally depleted. And parents are doing this. Because parents don't know any better. And not all, but for the most part.
Should they?
Absolutely. However, for the most part, what can you call a parent? Is a parent someone that has a child? So then I'm saying that you remember they say children having children, all that stuff, like the Bible scriptures and all of that. We knew this was going to happen, you know what I'm saying? But before, people knew, okay, child is going to have a child, innit? And then there was a community to come together to actualize that child who's had a child into their motherhood or fatherhood, you know, because that's rites of passage. And then at least they can be the caregiver for that child. But you also understand it takes a village to raise a child. To depend on one parent to know everything is dangerous.
It's impossible.
That's one person. Even like you're saying to me, oh, you know a lot? I don't know anything. I'm a child. I'm still growing. You get me? But I know in this lifetime, I'm never going to stop growing. You get me? And I'm always going to stay in the state of a child in a sense of I'm always going to be creative, always going to show love because that makes me feel good. However, I'm going to be responsible. Now, being responsible means that you're able to nurture your inner child. You get me? So when it's time to be responsible, to be responsible. When you want to be in your childlike state, which is not bad, that's your creative, your playful state, you can be in that state, but you know when it's time to be responsible as well. Do you get me? Now, they're not opposites. People usually think children are not responsible. I'll take you to Africa. You'll see lots of children that are very responsible.
Listen, first and foremost, there's no such thing as naps back in Africa, or most third world developing countries. There's no such thing as waking up at 10 a.m.
Definitely not.
Are you mad?
You missed a whole day.
Are you crazy?
They done.
10 a.m.
They finished.
So you're right. I mean, it takes a village. And again, you know, going back to this country, some people don't know their neighbors.
No. But
they don't even speak to their neighbors.
They do not. Like, it's crazy. Because you see what happens in life, people that you're close to, they have a greater chance to impact you, or they have a greater chance to affect your peace. Now, it's neither bad nor good. That comes with the territory. Because you see, when you're close to people, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, children, whoever, mum, dad, brother, sister, it's what you're saying, and this is now the element of love, because this is something that we sometimes believe, because even growing up, I was like, why is every song about love? It's only as I'm growing, I'm realizing that actually everything in this universe is a degree of love. Literally, happiness, sadness is a degree of love. When people are sad, they're just far away from that frequency of love. That's all it is. It doesn't mean they're not on the frequency. It's like hot and cold.
They're just on the other side of the spectrum.
Hot and cold is temperature. So people see hot and cold as opposites. It's the same thing. It's temperature. It's two sides of the same frequency. So when we're dealing with emotions, if you say like you've got like unconditional divine love, whatever you want to call it, whatever that word is, alignment, I don't know, like whatever floats the person's boat, that's love. Okay, say center. As you get further and further away, you go through sadness, you go through apathy, all these things. Now, and then you like go through hate as well. But we've been taught, or people feel that hate is the opposite of love. It's absolutely not. Hate is very close to love. Because for you to hate somebody,
you must have loved
there's still an expectation.
Something changed.
Yeah, there's still an expectation. Because for that energy to be present, you're still expecting that thing from the person. If you didn't expect that thing from that person, or you weren't attached,
you won't hate them.
No, you won't. And you won't even feel nothing for them.
And that's why we always say, just let it go.
Yeah.
And you saying that it's literally the same, on the same line. This is why it's physically impossible to be happy and sad at the same time. Because you can't go here. So you can't be happy and sad at the same time. But we are suffering. A lot of us are suffering from hate being on the other side of love. But a lot of us were never given love in the first place. So we do not know that. Because a friend of mine told me something very, very powerful, and I will never forget it. He said, listen, there's two types of love. You know, there's a person who, let's say a boy who's loved by his mom and dad, and they're surviving. You know, they're going to work, working 3 jobs, 2 jobs, whatever. So they come home, hug the kid, you know, read a book, do something. They're always, baby, I love you. I know you can't afford the Nike trainers, but here's a hug. That's love. And the other side, you got a girl, mom and dad, super rich. They're never at home. So they substitute that with, here's a Versace bag, here's a Ferrari, here's a nice car. You know what? You're turning 18? Okay, we're buying a house. To them, that's love. Now, the problem comes in, let's say if that boy and that girl meet. So now I am that boy, she's that girl. I'm saying, I love you, give me a hug. No, you don't love me. Where's my Ferrari? You know, because that's love to me. I want the Ferrari. No, baby, love is a hug. Come, let's watch. No, what? Are you mad? I don't, where's my new house keys? What are you talking about? So again,
and there's no right or wrong, you know.
There's no right or wrong.
Because you see that is, and you probably have heard of this as well, there's a term or we'll say concept. There's a concept and they call it love languages. Now, people have different love languages. Now, love language this is what, like, when we talk about love language, yeah, if we kind of just break down that word, language is communication.
Yeah.
But the actual meaning is not in the language. I'll say that again. Language is communication, but the meaning is not in the language. Well, why am I saying that? Because if language was communication and the meaning is in the language, you can be sitting here speaking Twi or speaking Zulu and I'll get it. Why don't I get it? You understand? Like, I'm learning French right now and I'm learning Portuguese. I'm just starting to understand certain things and I still don't get it. Yeah. So the meaning is not in the actual words. It's within the being. It's within the being. And that's why we can say the same word and it can mean 5 different things. And we know slang is great for that. Like back in the day, bro, I used to always speak like clear, proper English. Yeah. And the reason being is I was like, I want to have a command over the language. I don't want it to command me. So I wouldn't swear. There were certain things I wouldn't do because I just thought it was lazy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let me find another way to express myself because everyone's saying this shit. So anyways, as until like I started to evolve and grow, which came through a lot of like trials and tribulations and all that. Like I had to get broken down. You know what I'm saying? All the stuff I wasn't had to let go of. But in doing so, I realized, I was like, boy, I was holding on to this identity, you know what I'm saying? Like being able to speak properly and be a great orator, yeah? Which was keeping me in a box. Like language and expression is dynamic. I like to be able to go from this, to go from that, to go that, to do this. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it. Free. Let's use all the colours. You get me? Because certain time, swearing, like using a swear word, the emphasis that can bring to something, nothing else can.
Yes.
Do you get me? So I started getting that. So anyway, the meaning is in the person. Yeah. Now, if we, like, I can say, nah, man, that is bad. Nah, that's bad, man. Nah, she bad. Nah, that's bad. Bro, it's like 4 different things, but one word.
She's bad.
She bad, yes.
That's the one I heard. Sorry, babe.
So it's like there's 4 different things. 4 different things. And what it is because I am emoting different meaning. Because language communicates the emotion. You know, it communicates the internal space. There's something going on internally with me. I'm using language to share that. But if you don't get, you know what I'm saying, the language and you don't have no meaning for the language, it means nothing to you. Yes. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
The reason why we're talking about languages is because you mentioned the love language. So with a love language, you will make a gesture, and in that gesture, it allows you to feel love. Someone else will make a different gesture, and it allows them to feel love. Yeah? It's not within the language. It's in what I'm agreeing to feel this emotion because of.
And what my intentions are.
So like if my love language is acts of service, when someone does something like, I know, picks me up, you know, and I'm stranded or buys me something, I'm like, oh, I can feel love now. That's love. You know, if someone then starts telling me how much they love me, I may not feel nothing because I'm not allowing myself to feel it.
I'm not on that frequency.
I'm not that, you know what I'm saying? But for someone else, they're like, no, you got to tell me you love me. That's when I feel complete and whole. And you can't knock them. What I'm saying, it'll be great when we're at a point where we can allow ourselves to feel love just from breathing, you know?
So interesting because what you're saying is so powerful because you get it in a lot of times, like, especially females, like, but he does this for, what, he does all of that for you and you don't and some guys are like, brother, I do this for her, I do that for, what you're saying is just literally. Wow, like I do, and just because she's not on the same love language as you.
No, exactly.
So therefore, I'm going to ask you this. How, because that's important. Love is important. You say everything is in love. How can we ensure that we find out each other's love frequency?
Communication. I feel like even with your brethrens, this should be topic of communication. You know what I'm saying? Because for you to even have brethrens, for girls to have brethrens, boys to have brethrens, there's a frequency, there's a synergy, there's a synchronicity. Something's working. So how can you better serve each other? Because most of the time, bro, people are suffering. And when I say most of the time, 99% of the time, and no one knows.
Yes.
I spoke to a brethren the other day, and like, she was going through some stuff. Lost a few family members that nobody knew, you know? So we need to be able to have honest, I call it open heart surgery. That needs to be the standard of our communications with those who you're safe with. To be able to be safe and your heart to be safe and having these conversations, you'll get to know whether it's your wife, whether it's your brethren, your link, your whatever. But like, when do you feel love? You know what? I feel love when people do things to surprise me, or when someone just thinks about me without me having to tell them, you know, what I need. That's when I feel love, you know. Or I feel love when my girlfriend strokes my back. Or I feel love when my girlfriend spends time with me. Or I feel love when she's holding my hand. Then in itself, you know what I'm saying, you're starting to understand what that kind of open sesame code for that person's heart is. As the person begins to do more work on themselves, and this is me, included, we won't need someone else to have the key for our heart. We will have the key ourselves, and we can open it and keep it open as much as we want. So we wouldn't need you need to, you know, do an act of service for me to feel love. I feel love because I am actually created in the image of love. Like, love is everywhere, King. And this is not no hocus pocus talk. This is reality. Why? Well, if we remove that word love, what is it? It's the frequency of life. It's attraction. It's what brings things into being. All that stuff. Well, what's keeping your body together? They say that this body is made up of cells and all this stuff there. Well, what's keeping it together? You know what I'm saying? What keeps the trees, and even to say trees is a little disrespect, what keeps those beings we call trees consistently producing fruits, vegetation, oxygen for us, although we're chopping them down? They don't say we're going to stop. Although we're digging up the minerals in the earth and although we don't need to, we're still destroying the earth, bomb this place, do that. The earth doesn't say I'm going to cave in. That's love. To fulfill your purpose. Irrespective, with no compromise, unapologetically, to be what you have been created to be. A seed does that. Trees do it. The birds do it. Do you get me? Because a lot of love has been romanticized, bro. And what's been romanticized is this emotion, is this adrenaline. It's not bad, but just like that, when you start romanticizing this adrenaline, once it goes up, it's going to come down.
It has to.
Yeah. So you're never going to stay in that state if that's your definition of love. That's why most people have not felt it before. Like, they've got something in the Oriental, the Asian tradition, and they call it coming into enlightenment. And they say this is what happens with gurus. It's a rites of passage. But what they say, some of the symptoms of coming into enlightenment is no different from the symptoms of rites of passage. You start questioning life. You start questioning who you are. A lot of people lose their mind. But the reason it's important to lose your mind when you're growing, because the mind we've got, like the mind I've got, has already served me. It's already taken me as far as it can go. Literally. So for me to go further, I need to create a new mind. Well, you're going to have to lose your mind. You know, and it's that little thing there that the ego gets very insecure about, because it wants to have control over us completely. And so when they're going through this enlightenment, a lot of them, they will cry like buckets of tears, go into meditations that last a month and they don't even know it's been a month. But one thing that's clear, they say they feel this keen, overflowing, unconditional sense of divine love. And they can't contain it. They look around and all they see is love and they just bawl. Yeah. And they say they feel like they're going to explode. It's too much. You know, and then you get people in the church that speak about similar experiences, you know. The anointing, you know, the spirit coming down, you know what I'm saying? Feeling Christ come down or being in the spirit. Then you go to the indigenous world, which is before all of that. They speak about it too. You know, they'll be like, you know, like literally when you go through rites of passage and you now are a channel, you know, or you're one with nature, or the spirits come through you, or the ancestors come through. All these different words people are using to describe a similar phenomena, you know, and that's when identity steps aside, you know, And that life force that keeps your heart beating, that keeps your body producing the hormones, the vitamins it needs, comes through. Do you get me? And you connect with something far greater, that feeling that you've always had, that you're here to do more. You're here to be more. You're deserving of more. Like, you lot actually putting this together is because there was something inside of you that said, look, we're here to create something that's going to make a difference. No one told you to do it. There wasn't a mandate. It came from somewhere else. That's not physical. Make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Wow. That's mad. You just caused a problem. Honestly. My thinking now is who's gonna come on next after you?
You're a joker, bro.
Honestly. Like,
many people. This is such a great space, man. It really is.
I wanna where do we start?
Yeah, that's a very good question, bro. There's something you said earlier, and I think it relates to what you just asked. Parenting. That's critical. Because this world, this universe, is all based on relationships. Now, if I was told that about 10 years ago, I'd be like, nah, explain that a bit more, because I was very knowledgeable and into knowledge, and that in itself can be a trap because you're getting all this secondary knowledge. You know what I'm saying? What about your own experience? And even the way you interpret something, bro, you can only interpret something as far as you've been. You can only interpret something, phenomena, a book, whatever it is, as far as you've been. Okay, I'll remix that. You can't, it's dangerous actually, because you can do it. But it's dangerous to take someone into the deep end if you can't swim in the deep end. First, go and master the deep end yourself before you take anybody there. Because you've got the knowledge of it and then you've got the experience. I'll give you another example. When I was learning to ride, bro, I could not understand how people balance on these thin little wheels. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, what? How? It was magic, bro. I was like, how does that happen? You've got this big boulder on a little bike. And now I do it second nature, bro. But actually that was a blind spot for me. It was a blind spot. I hadn't discovered gravity. No matter how much you describe it, gravity and balance, it doesn't make no difference. Gravity means this, MC squared, whatever it is, and balances don't mean nothing to me. Because actually, my cells, my DNA, my atoms don't have the experience.
Have to experience.
Yeah.
Then it will make sense.
Yeah. So, and to experience, I had to be able to drop. It's the same thing. A baby doesn't give up after it's dropped 50 times from trying to walk. It's never like, I'm not going to walk. The baby still goes, I'm going to walk. There's something in it that says, I must walk. So first, if you never give up and you fall in love with the process, not the destination, because that's another thing as well. We've got this destination addiction. When I get there, then this. When I get here, then that. And then when you get there, it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Then you're disappointed.
Yeah, you're disappointed. If we knew it all, bro, this life would not be an adventure. So what we need to do is celebrate what we don't know and have the desire and the inspiration to seek. Because that's how you evolve. The process is just a tool for you to expand. So first, never give up. We must fall in love with the process. Yeah. Gratitude. The only reason I'm saying those things first, is because energy and frequency, the way we approach something is very important. If you don't approach something with the intention, that actually raises your spirit, yeah, you're more than likely not going to continue on that path.
And you feel it.
Yeah.
And everyone around you feel it.
Literally, bro. You're not happy. It's just like when you're on stage or whatever it is. If you're not enjoying yourself, you can feel it. So that's first. Then, before parents try to heal their children, heal yourself. Because your children are an outgrowth of you at a certain point before they go into their own path. So go and do your inner child healing. And there's ways you can do it. I'm not just saying this. Inner child healing is important. You know, there's many things you can do. There's transactional letters where you write a letter to your inner child. There's actually embodiment where you embody your inner child and you find out the age that you were at when certain things happened that you're still carrying. And you go and transform that by distinguishing with your inner child what happened, what you made it mean, and what you created by it. Then you go back and switch the meaning up. You go and do a grief ceremony ritual where you write a letter and you burn it. You know what I'm saying? You go and connect with your inner child. You go and literally be playful. Go do something that's completely out of your comfort zone that you wouldn't usually, that you feel fun, you know? Get around people that are safe. Have these conversations. Complete conversations, because there's a lot of us walking around with a lot of hatred towards our parents. You didn't do this, you wasn't that, you beat me, you did this, and I get all of that. Like, okay, I get it. You've had a hard life, but you've had a hard childhood. But having a hard childhood doesn't mean you just have a hard future. But if you carry that baggage, you are going to make your actual past being your future. You're going to repeat it. And that's what a lot of us are doing. We're repeating our cycles, blaming our parents. Even some of them are not on earth no more, but we're still blaming them. Because we're too scared to take on the responsibility of what I will become if I be 100% responsible for my life. So parents, first, heal you. Just daily meditation, gratitude list. There's so many programs out there and processes that will enable you to start really tapping into the heart and dealing with where you're stuck and healing those wounds so you stop hurting other people that haven't hurt you. So you stop bleeding on others. Because a lot of us are bleeding on our children. We don't know it. Then we think the children are going crazy.
Explain that concept, bleeding on others. Because I know that concept, but I can't explain it better than you.
So, no, I think you better explain it just as well. You explain it and I explain it. Let's get out to it.
No. I'm the guest. This is your show. He took over the show from the minute it started. Please.
So... bleeding. So what happens if you don't heal the wounds of your childhood or at any point in your life, you will bleed on others who have not hurt you. Why? Because what happens when you've got a wound, just by the nature of the wound, it should start to heal, but not every wound heals. If you're not in the right conditions for healing to take place, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. How can it? So it's like me having a wound, I've got a cut. But actually, I'm now at home. I may have literally kept it open so air's getting to it, flies are going there, all this stuff, because the body's trying to heal itself, but the conditions ain't right. There's no sun. I haven't got vitamin D. I'm not taking vitamin. The conditions are not right.
It won't heal.
No, it's not going to heal. I keep doing stuff with the same arm. I've got a cut on. I'm playing ball and a goalkeeper. You're just going to keep opening up the wound. Naturally, what's going to happen when you're hugging and touching people, you're with your family, you're going to bleed on them. Well, that's what happens when you've got emotional wounds. Because what happens when you've got emotional wounds, the trauma's there, the trauma sits behind it. Anything that triggers that trauma, you're going to react. Bro, you've got children, youths reacting on each other. You've got so-called people that wear uniform, you know what I'm saying, blowing off black men's heads, you know what I'm saying, reacting. They're all carrying
wounds.
Trauma
that they're facing.
Bro, they're carrying trauma.
And you know what? As I said earlier, it has to come out. Yeah,
it has to.
I see someone who I don't like the look of them.
Yeah.
I don't like who they represent for whatever reason. I'm going to bleed on them.
Literally. And then they blame you for bleeding on you. Why are you putting the blood on? It's your blood, bro. So that's what's going on. And what can happen, we can bleed so much that people, they actually don't even have any fight in them. They don't even there's a lot of people that they're in a state of apathy, bro. And what that means, there is no will for them to transform. They're scared and they're like, you know what? I'm going to get myself as comfortable as I can in this uncomfortable situation. A lot of us are coping with the uncomfortability. Imagine that, bro. You're lying on a bed of nails and you're trying to make yourself comfortable. That's what a lot of us are doing. And that's what's come out throughout last year, because when people now have been forced to go inside, now just don't mean inside their homes, inside the chambers of their heart, inside of their head, what they're being shown is all the stuff we've not dealt with. So I'm not sure if you've heard, but they said last year, domestic violence went up.
I don't think domestic violence went up. I think domestic violence was always there.
Definitely.
But now it was a thing where people can't run from it.
Exactly.
Because you have a thing where, you know what, honey, I'm going to work 9 to 5.
Come on.
After work, darling, you know what, I'm going to go out with the mates, going to go to the pub. But, you know what, mate, just going to, one more. By the time you get home, it's 11 p.m.,
Literally.
10 p.m., 8 p.m., whatever. The whole house is asleep. So you don't have time. So you sleep, the next morning you wake up. And then the only time you have to abuse others is the weekend.
Literally.
So, but now you got 7 days to abuse. So it's not gone up.
Hours.
It's always been there.
And that's exactly my view as well. Everything you just said. And I remember I had said it and some people got offended. And I understood it because they were triggered, innit? But I was like, look, it's always been there.
It's always been
if you
there.
keep on sweeping this dirt underneath the rug, at one point you're going to have a mountain in your house. And that's all that's happened. So there's an opportunity, which is we can deal with it, and I can deal with it, so I can transform it. And if I can transform it, now I don't have to cope with it. I've removed it from my life. But if you don't deal with it, you're going to keep trying to cope with it, and you're raising children in this as well. So they're going to learn these behavioral traits. This is what it looks like to be in a relationship. Let's abuse each other. And I'm not even talking about just physical abuse. I'm talking about emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is massive.
And that's the physical abuse you can heal.
Emotional abuse, bro, you can't even see the scars.
See it.
And so going back to what you said, I think apart from like, you know, the never giving up, you know, the falling in love with the process, also the starting with yourself and doing that inner child work, I think it's important. Forgiveness is critical because they say resentment, is literally no different from drinking poison but expecting your enemy to die or whoever done you wrong.
I always say that to people. I always say forgive and let go because it takes too much energy to hurt and wish bad on someone else, because you're so focused on wishing bad on me and hurting me. You're actually not seeing the opportunities walking right in front of you. And it's so slow.
Exactly.
But the energy just...
Exactly.
And by the time I've done... Because remember, you hated me. I don't know who you are.
Exactly.
Oh, I do. But I'm not in your radar because I'm so focused on doing what I'm doing. Forgive. And you know what? Once you forgive, it's like telling the truth. After you've lied so long, if you tell the truth and forgive, it's like...
liberated, bro. You know, they say forgiveness is an act of self-love. Yes. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. And it's so true because you're not walking around now with that energy. You're not walking around with that baggage. So I really feel like with parents, forgiveness is a must. Because if you don't forgive, you're not going to get beyond that point where you're stuck. And then making your own healing, your own self-development, an actual priority. And some people are like, but you know, as a parent, it's hard. What's harder? You healing or you passing on the baggage to your children and expecting?
Because it will get passed on.
Definitely does. Definitely does.
And the kids see that. And and more importantly than seeing, they feel it.
Definitely. Kids are so intelligent. They're so amazing. There's a saying as well, which is children teach parents how to be parents. Parents don't teach children to be children. We come into this world as children. We come into this world with all the possibilities. We learn how to be adults.
We can learn so much from our kids.
Oh, bro, they're the best teachers ever.
Literally.
Because they're mirrors of you and they're authentic mirrors of you as well. So I would definitely say parents just allowing themselves to put themselves first and developing that self-esteem without the guilt. Because a lot of what parenting has become, it's become more of almost like a performance. You know, and I know parents are like, how can you say that? But I'm just saying what I observe. You get me? Like, it's about the looking good and not the being good. Do you get me? It's a performance then. And it's not your fault. This is what you were taught. Look good, don't be good. Because, brother, there's a reason why you've got a disproportionate amount of brothers, young people from our nation, you know what I'm saying, or community, either ending up mental health, because that's a massive one, bro. Mental health, or in prison, or dead, you know, or a waste man, or like, there's a reason. It's not fluke. It's not by chance. It's by design. And lastly as well, creating an environment that's conducive to love and to pouring in, you know, the wisdom into that child, because that child's a seed. And I say that to mean that if your environment is being controlled by social media or media, then the media is raising your child. And then let's remove that term, the media, because I think it's such, when we use terms like that, they're blanket terms, it doesn't put the attention where it deserves to be. The media is a few people with ideas, taking the idea, pulling it on a platform everywhere, repeating it over and over, and then you see it as this big mammoth. It's just a couple people with a system.
Which you said to earlier.
Yeah.
The media could be your heaven or your hell.
Yeah.
So let's move towards the hell part.
Exactly. You must create a system in the
I'm
home.
trying to move away from
the hell into the heaven.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's create a system in the home where you are the media. That's very important. Because, bro, to be honest, a lot of parents are not raising their children. Their children are getting raised by the media. That's the reality. How much time they spend at school? They spend more time at school than they do at home. Then even when they're at home, parent comes in tired from work, you may get an hour with your child at that, and you're all on your phones anyway. Do you get me? You have some dinner. People don't sit down and have dinner anymore, so you don't know what's going on in each other's worlds. Your friends know more than anyone in your household. Do you get me? Then you go to bed. So yeah, those couple things that I've suggested, I think that's critical for parents. And parents allowing themselves to be nurtured. We should never stop learning. When we stop learning, that's when we start leaving this earth.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah, dead.
You're dead. Wow. Well, I was going to say where can they find you, but I'm just going to say you can find them at FK Studios.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
it.
Talk.
No, honestly, where can they find you?
Okay, FK Studios. So you can check out, see, this is the whole thing, because with the Insta, all right, you can check out Marda Magai on Instagram. And then also for anything to do with nutrition is Vilification. Vilification.co.uk.
What advice would you give to the young ones once they go through the rite of passage without going through the correct way of rite of passage into the adulthood? They're lost. They have no guidance, no one to talk to. And they're being raised by social media on the hell side of social media. What advice would you give them? Because they are searching. Some of them are searching for a way out, but they can't find it.
100%. 100. Because at one point I was searching. And I remember like growing up, I had a set of brothers who acclimatized me to road, to how to survive. And that was great. And I thank them for that eternally. However, their tools that they gave me worked in that environment, you know. So outside of that, they were obsolete, you know. So I was searching. I was like, nah, because in this environment, okay, cool, I'm cool here, but this environment is so small, bro. Like an area, a borough is tiny. Like the UK is a drop in the ocean. And they even magnify or superimpose, meaning expand the UK so it looks bigger than what it is on the maps. It's not even big. It's tiny. And then within the UK, you've got this little speck called London. Then within London, you've got these little specks called boroughs. It's crazy.
Which you don't even own the house.
No, don't even own nothing.
90% of them.
Don't own nothing. So,
and if you own the house, you don't own the land because you're in a lease of 90 years or 30, whatever years it may be.
It's madness, bro. It's crazy. It's insanity to the highest degree that we've all kind of come here and all partaken in. But what it is at that point when I was searching, there was no one around in my environment. So then I started going outside of my environment, looking for other people and brothers and that. And then when I met people, I was like, oh, yeah, all right, that person's inspirational. I didn't realize they had their own baggage too. So they didn't even have the capacity to nurture me to the next level because they were dealing with their stuff. So I gravitated towards Tupac and other people, Marcus Garvey and so on and so forth, because I was like, I'm listening to them and it's expanding me. Do you get me? Who else? Like Wu-Tang Clan, Dead Prez, Lauryn Hill. You know, like music is very important. There's even a great rapper that I didn't even know. I thought like a lot of the great rappers of yesteryear, there was no one that was coming up apart from maybe like Kendrick Lamar. Obviously you had Nas as well. There's quite a few actually. But then I got introduced to a rapper called Joey Badass. Yeah, bad man. Like, and he's young. He's like 22 or something. I didn't know. And I think there's another guy called Rust or something like that. Ruff or Rust.
Rust. Is it Rust?
Yeah, I think it's that. Yeah, bad. Like, but when I was listening to Joey, I was like, okay, like he's going in. So first, the advice I give, because I was there too. Firstly, is honor yourself. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Honor your heart. We all have a calling or we wouldn't be here. All of us. But actually, the most difficult part is to accept that and surrender to it. Because there's so much in the way. I'm not special. Nah, I'm just like the other guy. Why me? I'm just making it up. I'm not. All these types of dialogues. It's not realistic. It's not going to happen. At one point in time, for certain people, for a certain group of people on earth, like calling someone from a mobile to another mobile was not realistic. From one point in time, having an Android phone was, don't believe me, do research yourself, because in the 90s, the first mobile was a brick for a house. That's what it was.
They'll be like, what's this madman talking about?
It was a brick for a house with an antenna, I remember. And people had the audacity to put it in their back pocket as well. Get me? At one point, communication was pages. You know what I'm saying? You had to call up an operator, bro, and say, can you send this brother this message for me, yeah? Tell him call Albert. But I remember when I had my first pager, yeah? I thought I was on things. I used to put on, like, you would get like these different updates, like, you know, the weather and news. No one was paging me, bro. So I used to get my updates and make it seem like someone, yeah.
I got this. Hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
What? Call you? Yeah. I'll call him later. Don't worry.
The only thing that was coming for me is 25 degrees outside. So what I'm saying is that actually something not being realistic is not the demarcation and is not the marker of whether it can be manifested or not. You know, realism and realistic is actually based on people's paradigm. So, for example, in certain cultures, talking to a person is not just talking to a person. You know, when they're talking to you, they're talking to all your ancestors. And when they're dealing with you, they're not just dealing with you. They say, boy, your granny's here, your great-great-grand. They can see all of that. In another culture, like, that's sci-fi, that's make-believe. No. Your culture, your paradigm, your language, your mindset doesn't see beyond its parameters. So we can be limited by our view of life and the language we use. Now, but there's a language that surpasses the verbal communication. That's non-verbal. Non-verbal is about 80 to, they say 70, now I say 80, now I say it's like 90% part of communication. Yeah. So let's say it's 80 non-verbal. Well, what's non-verbal? That's gestures, sensations, feelings. Start to honor your feelings. I'm not talking about the fear which comes out of the program. I'm talking about getting into your heart. Start tapping into your heart. How do you do that? Start with just play. Find something you love to do. Not because of money, not because of accolades, not because of validation, just because it's an end within itself. When you do it, you feel complete. Start with there. Because that will start strengthening your connection to yourself. As you start to strengthen your connection to yourself, you'll be able to hear based on your feeling, your heart again. Once you can feel your heart, follow it. And where it takes you is not going to be logical. If it is logical, it's not coming from your heart. Bro, creativity is abstract. Yeah. For a reason. Do you get me? Well, that makes it so powerful. Like they say, the writings on the wall that comes out of Kemet and the ancient dynasties is because a picture tells more than 1,000 words. You can go to like what I've seen here today is today. I come here again, I'm going to see something different. I come in, and it's not because the pictures are changing.
Just your mind.
I'm transforming. You remember the Matrix when the little hopeful boy, you know, he looked like a monk, was like, "Don't try and bend a spoon." Yeah. He said it's impossible. Yeah? And there's a reason, Benj, your mind, you will be the one that's moving. We are constant beings. We are infinite. So I'm saying the only way we can actually start to actualize that is when we surrender into or surrender on the current of our life. There's a current that's brought us here. We all have our own rhythm. And sometimes these rhythms converge. And that's when you create stuff like we've got here. You lot's rhythms converge. Do you get me? Now, what it is if you start getting into your heart and you start honoring your feelings, not everything's going to be right. You want to understand yourself. You start understanding, questioning, why do I feel this way? All that stuff. You will start to actually hear and feel your own current and your own purpose. And once you've done that, no one needs to give you advice. Yes, still listen and take things on because that's part of your journey, but then you will be on your path. And the last thing I will say is you've got two types of rites of passage. You've got rites of passage that's culturally defined. So meaning someone shows symptoms, a child will show certain symptoms, and it's them stuff I said to you, it could be depression, could be stress, could be sexuality, whatever it is, puberty, all that stuff. Another one as well is when women and when young girls come on their period. That's also a symptom. The elders know we have to initiate them now. So there'll be a period of time within the year where all the children go into the bush. They call it bush school in Gambia, in Sierra Leone. They call it society all around. And over in America, they call it fraternity, sororities, all that stuff. The elders now will take you through a series of exercises. They are not holding your hand. They're acting as a guide. But they act as a guide because if you're able to master the internal, you can then master the external because it's one and the same. That's one form of rites of passage. Then you've got another form of rites of passage through your life experiences. So we go through challenges, we go through trials, we go through tribulations. All of that is a rites of passage too. However, there's no guidance. So what can happen is people don't make it through. They get stuck. What does that look like? Prison, mental health or mental illness, death, apathy, society, depression. All of that, drugs, is a symptom of getting stuck in the process. It doesn't mean you can't get out, but start now. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, the best time to have started a business was 20 years ago and the next best time is now.
Right now.
So start now. Start now. Start honoring yourself. It's going to feel a bit uncomfortable, a bit wobbly. It's going to feel like, oh, this is a new language. Am I being moist? Am I being this? Am I being that? That's all good. Fantastic. Write that shit. Write it all down. You know what I'm saying? Write that all down. That's all good. Get it out your space. Then keep honoring yourself. Keep honoring yourself. Keep on. And you will be guided. No one needs to guide you because you already have it within you, but we're just not listening to it anymore. So listen to your heart.
And believe me, it's going to get sticky, as the young ones will say, because the devil is working. Like working. But God is working even greater, because it's the thing where we always remember the bad time. You know, like yesterday, Rasta will tell you I had a bad moment. I think it lasted no more than half an hour. I was fuming. I was mad. He's my witness. I was mad. But it took me about 2-3 hours later. I'm like, you know what? There's 24 hours in a day. I had a bad moment for half an hour. And I'm complaining. Why am I not celebrating the rest of it? You know what? Leave it alone, Francis. And it just,
look at that.
It was just that switch.
Look at that.
So the devil is working, but there's even a greater force working on your side. Yeah, brother. I've been the guest. He's been the host. He's going to close the show. I can't. Please.
I'm closing the show with saying that, you know, you are worth it. That's everybody watching this. That's even if you just listen to the audio. That's even if you're just catching this part of the show. You are worth it. There's something in you that's aligned with something within us that's made this all possible. And for this to be possible must mean that we're vibrating on the same frequency. So what I would say is, one, for you to be listening to this show, your frequency is aligned with mine and mine with yours, which then means there's something that's bringing us together for a greater cause. But we've all got to play our part. And how do we play our part? We play our part not by me trying to fix you. It doesn't work. I need to heal me so I can be greater for you. You heal you so you can be greater for me. And then we all heal ourselves so we can be greater together. If cells come together and they get organized, we call it an organ. It's still the same cells, but they've come together for a specialized particular function. So that's what an organ is. So we are all part of an organ right now, coming together to heal, coming together to fulfill our birthright. But in order to fulfill our birthright, we've got to be alive. So I say to you, it's your time to start living again. And what does living look like and feel like? It feels like fun. It feels like play. It feels like getting into your own magic. It feels like getting into your heart. And if you haven't been there before, it's going to be a strange place, just like going to a new country. However, start employing your inner child and get into wonder. Get interested. Get excited about new discoveries. We're not here to stay stagnant and stay the same. That's what death looks like. Or shall I say, that's what stifling looks like, or being in limbo. We are here to make sure that this place that we're in is better because you've blessed it. For you to bless it, you're going to have to get in contact with you. And now's your time to tap in to your essence, your current, and your rhythm.
Wow. Love, peace, and happiness.